Hello, my name is Ethan, and for my final video project, I'm going to be comparing three different versions of the famous painting The Last Judgment from renowned artists Michelangelo, Giotto, and Bosch. I will be reviewing the iconography, some information on the painting, and some information about the artist, and then compare them to each other in terms of detail, iconography, and other minor differences that I personally noticed between them. The first version of The Last Judgment is painted by the famous Michelangelo. Let's start near the top and work our way down. At the very top corners you can see two separate events taking place. The one on the left shows people letting down a man who has been crucified, which could possibly be Jesus. The story on the right-hand side shows many people trying to lift this stone column. When we work our way down slightly, you can see what appears to be heaven, where most of the figures are portrayed in the painting. You can see numerous people, many of them staring at Christ in the center, surrounded by light. A little further down right below them, you can see angels and humans. Now, some of the humans appear to be trying to climb up into heaven with the others, and some of the angels appear to be either lifting the people up with them or overseeing what is happening below. Now let's look at the bottom of the painting on the left-hand side, where you can see people on the surface raising their arms, beckoning them to take them to heaven with them. And some of them appear to look like they're being lifted upward into heaven. Now on the right-hand side, you can see what appears to be a small but simple depiction of hell. You can see what appears to be the devil on the boat with an oar in his hand, staring at the people to his right. The people he's staring at appear to be on some small piece of land, and you can see some snakes attacking the people on that piece of land. This is the artist's version of the eternal suffering that occurs in hell, according to his personal depiction. According to TotallyHistory.com, this painting is currently in the Sistine Chapel in Vatican City, and the website's version of the iconography states that the end of the world is occurring in front of Christ, and that people on earth are being judged before him. Also, Michelangelo's painting was proven to be very controversial because of how he portrayed the people nude in his painting. You see, in medieval times, people would dress according to their status in society, but Michelangelo decided to draw everyone nude to show a form of equality in events such as this. This portrayal, however, sparked great criticism and even violent protests because of the presence of nudity in the Sistine Chapel and violating the social norms of the time. After his death, however, artists decided to paint clothes on many of the figures. According to Funk and Wagnall's encyclopedia, Michelangelo, even at a young age, had a great appreciation for art, mainly art from Florence. In his early teens, his father, who had ties with the ruling Medici family at the time, had Michelangelo placed in an art academy at the age of 13, where he began his career in art. When he was a little older, he went to Rome to see the recently unearthed ruins and statues. Now we are looking at the next version of The Last Judgment, which was painted by Giotto de Bonde in 1306. The iconography in this painting is clearly different from Michelangelo's in terms of detail and the appearances of the people. In this version, you can see a more clear division between those who have been condemned to hell and those who are enjoying an eternal afterlife peacefully. At the top here, you can see rows of angels gazing down at Christ, who is judging people based on their behavior. Right below Christ, you can see two angels holding a cross. Christ is looking down at two different worlds that appear to be heaven on the left and hell on the right. Heaven right here, while the image is faded, is simply shown by depicting groups of men and women in white robes being guided by angels. Hell on the right here is depicted as a dark, demon-infested world in which the people there are nude and being tortured by demons, and in the very middle of all this chaos, you can see the devil at the very center of it all. The iconography of this painting sounds almost identical to Michelangelo's version in description, but as you can see, how he chose to paint it was clearly different. Giotto's painting was said to be the largest he had ever made in his career in the Arena Chapel. He even added the commissioner named Enrico Scrovegni in the painting on the very bottom at the base of the cross, presenting a model of the chapel to the Virgin Mary, who is the mother of Jesus. Also, the two angels you saw at both ends of the cross below Christ are the famed biblical figures Archangels Michael and Raphael. Something else that was very interesting to me was, according to the source listed below, the famed poet Dante was an associate of Giotto and was said to be inspired by The Last Judgment and wrote the famous poem Inferno after seeing the painting. Giotto was mainly known for his revolutionary fresco art styles in the 1300s. The Last Judgment was one of his most renowned paintings, but very little is actually known about the painting itself and how Giotto came to painting the scene the way he did. One theory, in the book listed below, is that he had assistance from an archpriest and his scholars from the Padua Cathedral. This is the last version of The Last Judgment I will be reviewing, but is also my personal favorite. This version of The Last Judgment was painted by Bosch in 1482. You can see immediately how this painting stands out in terms of detail and how visually striking it is at first glance. Let's start with a panel on the far left at the bottom, where the story begins of this painting. This panel depicts how sin was brought into the world, and how Lucifer became the center of all that is evil. At the bottom, you can see where Eve is made from Adam. You can see Adam lying on the ground in the grass, and Eve looks as if she was just pulled upward from him, symbolizing her creation. Right above them here, you can see both Adam and Eve standing in front of the tree that carried the forbidden fruit in which they were instructed by God not to eat, but ate anyway. Then above them, you can see what's known as the vengeful angel casting out Adam and Eve from paradise into the wilderness for their disobedience to God. The last scene at the top of the panel is the depiction of the rebellion of Lucifer and his fellow angels who attempted to overthrow heaven. The black angels are the rebellious angels that you can see being cast out of heaven, and the white angels are the ones who still served God. Now we move on to the middle panel, which I will cover some of the many events that are occurring since there are so many. So what is depicted here is referred to as limbo, or the edges of hell. At first glance, you can see many people being tortured in various ways, but each punishment is said to be custom to the sin committed by the person. Let's take a look at the building on the lower left portion of the panel right here. On the roof of that building is a nude woman who appears to be calmly walking around as if nothing's wrong, with a smile, and on her leg, it's hard to see because I couldn't zoom in too much further on this PowerPoint. She's being bitten by a demon. This could be perceived as the sin of lust, being sentenced to a hellish brothel of some kind. Below her in that same building, right here, there is a man being force-fed the excrement of the devil. It's very hard to see right here, but there was a phallus here, which is urinating into this barrel, and these two demons are force-feeding him into his mouth here. It's really gruesome, as you can tell, but it's very hard to see so far away. Now, over here on the right, you can see a demon woman, again, very hard to see, I apologize, pouring molten metal on the head of a man laying in front of her. And what she is supposedly pouring on his head is the melted money of riches the man had obtained in his acts of greed. Now, like I said earlier, there are a great many more scenes to look at over here, but I'm going to move on to the last panel since there are so many. Now, the last panel is showing the realm of hell itself. You can see a black monstrous figure, which is the devil sitting on his throne in the middle here. He is sentencing people entering his dominion to the appropriate punishment in which they have sinned. In front of him are more people being tortured by demons, right here. But in the background above him, you see a couple more demons here, like this strange figure with a giant metal helm and a spear, and what looks to be almost like a blowfish right here. But in the background above here, you can see a city, which is supposed to be hell itself, which is depicted as a chaotic place filled with fire and ruins. The meaning of each of these scenes I mentioned are better explained by Dr. Harris and Dr. Zucker from the Khan Academy. If you're taking the same art course as I am, then you may have seen the video provided by the Professor Devon. This painting is a triptych, meaning that it would open and close. The two side panels would close on weekdays, depicting the paintings of two saints, and would be open on weekends, which is the painting you just saw here. Hold on, let me go back. The painting here on weekends. But what I found intriguing, the most intriguing about this painting, is how it tells the story through multiple panels of the creation of sin and hell, and how hell became so well populated. And personally is one of the most detailed depictions of hell I have personally seen in art. According to the Columbia Electronic Encyclopedia, Bosch favored his depictions of monsters, animals, and other gruesome scenes in explicit detail. And while there is little known about his early years as an artist, what is known for a fact is that he had come from a family of artists. He was also believed to be one of the first artists to depict scenes of daily life, but of course not without his famed features of a bizarre twist. Now that we have seen each painting and know a little bit about the paintings themselves and the artists, it's time to compare them. The paintings have been placed in chronological order, starting from Giotto's painting in 1306, Bosch's painting in 1482, and then Michelangelo's painting in 1541. Now let's start off with the details of each of these paintings. When it comes to detail, there is a clear difference between them all. Bosch's painting clearly contains the most. You can see there are numerous events happening throughout each panel, as if each scene could be its own painting. Then there is Michelangelo's painting, right here, which contains a very good depiction of naturalism in the human form. You can make out the curves of the human body. And while showing and it also shows an excellent background here. You can see a bit of the shine on the water and the good shading of green in the grass. So that would put it in second place in my personal opinion out of these three paintings. But moving on. Next, the entire triptych of Bosch tells the story of the creation of sin. Unlike the other two paintings that only contain one panel and one painting, only contain one piece of the story. Another difference between these paintings is that they were all painted in different styles of art and painted in different periods of time. Giotto's painting was painted in the Proto-Renaissance era, Michelangelo's painting during the Italian Renaissance, and Bosch's painting during the Northern Renaissance. One similarity all of these paintings have, however, is that they all tell the same story, which is the biblical tale of the end of days. Another similarity is the culture they were all made in. All of these paintings were painted during the centuries where Christianity and Catholicism were the dominant religions almost everywhere in Europe. That's all I have for you today. I hope you all learned something about art and the paintings. I have all of my sources listed here if you would like to see more for yourself. And if you would like a better view of the paintings, just look them up on the internet and find the size that suits you best. And I'll go through my last few sources here so you can see them. Well, thank you for your time and have a nice night.